My name is Cynthia Altman, and I'm the curator at Kaikit. And Kaikit is a National Trust site that was the home built for the Rockefellers. Nelson Rockefeller was the last to live there. He died in 1979 when it went to the trust. And at Kaikit we have a number of the tapestries that were commissioned after Picasso paintings. The circumstances under which the exhibition came about were quite interesting because the United Nations, where the tapestry is hung since 1985, outside the Security Council, the United Nations was undergoing renovations and the tapestry had to be retrieved while the renovations were happening. And just at that point, we received the request from the Whitechapel because they were opening their expansion and arranging this exhibition in memory, really, of the 1939 visit of the painting after Guernica.
I'm Nagia Yakumaki and I'm curator of the Archive Gallery at the Whitechapel Gallery. Goshka Matsuka's The Nature of the Beast was the first commission that the Whitechapel Gallery did when we reopened our building in 2009. Of course, the project started 2 years before that, when Goshka became interested in the archive. So we invited her to do the commission. She was interested in our archive as her work revolves around archives and historiographies. And she came and spoke to me, and we were not sure exactly where she wanted to go. It was very first stages. But through our discussions, what developed was a very interesting exchange of ideas. And Goshka ended up using material from our archive that I was also discussing in my own research and thesis. And of course, she developed an amazing project that just started from that, departed from that, but then evolved in all different ways, making it very relevant to what was happening at the time, both politically and socially. And I think she managed to weave all of this information that she took from our archive as a starting point, but with other elements that she came across in her research and with what was happening at the world in parallel to the exhibition. Another very strong element of the installation was a rather small area of a small projection of films that were playing every day on a loop, and they were changing once a month. So again, Goshka was very keen in bringing documentary elements from what was happening in Afghanistan and Iraq. Some were kind of totally amateurish recordings of people's experiences. Some others were a little bit more, filmic in their approach. And these projections were in a small screen, and they were rotating, so you could see them throughout the day. In front of that projection, we had a war rug that, again, it's quite representative of how sometimes histories, especially of war, are depicted through textile and through a tradition of making. War rugs actually are quite interesting. I think their use in the exhibition, again, has an element of irony, but also a real element of depiction of a dramatic event such as war through textile and through traditions and histories that are, in a way, that are only expressed through materiality.
The tapestry hung behind a table around vitrine in which there was archival material relating to the exhibition in 1939. and all that happened at that time too. And the table was meant to reflect the proportions and the shape and the size of the table at the Security Council in the United Nations. And she chose to hang the tapestry in front of a blue drapery, again, the same color as the UN's color, that UN blue. So it was quite a fascinating concept. It was a conceptual piece because not only did she provide all of this archival material, she also invited the public. She issued an invitation to all groups to come and actually meet and convene at the table to discuss whatever they needed to discuss. There were arts groups, there were environmental groups, there were, I think the total number was 96 or 97. I have a listing somewhere. And the only requirement was that they leave behind records of what they discussed, and also that they were willing to be on exhibit, as it were, because the public continued to come through the exhibit during the meetings.
So as you entered the room, at the very end of the room, the back of it, you would see a Guernica tapestry, which was borrowed from the Rockefeller Foundation. But it was so impulsive in the space that actually a lot of people who came for it bypassed the whole installation and went straight in front of Guernica. But behind the tapestry was a blue drape. Of course, that was a fantastic, very witty and very strong reference that Goshka did to comment on the removing of the tapestry when it was in the United Nations building. They actually covered it with a blue drape because they said that it was interfering within the cameraman's kind of, shaping of the picture of their best shot. And so in this very symbolical gesture, we remove the drape and Goshka places it behind, so presenting the tapestry there rather than concealing it. Then you have, of course, Colin Powell's bust, which was particularly made, again, in a very ironic commentary. It was twofold. The one was that it was made in a Cubist style, so to reference, of course, Picasso's, area of thought, but also it depicted that famous moment where Colin Powell shows the evidence of weapons of mass destruction to the press, and he holds, that capsule, whatever, with chemicals or whatever it is. And so that historical moment, nevertheless, very, untrue to us now as it is unfolded since, was captured by Goshka in this Cubist-style bust. So a lot of ironies and commentaries are running through it.